My buddy Billy, very excited to have you on, my friend, with the PIMP podcast. I love that. So you reached out a while back after coming across some of my podcasts with Dr. Kruse, and you have been an absolute blessing for one, but an inspiration because you're always talking about how things are working and how you can improve and how we're bringing in regenerative agriculture and permaculture with this whole kind of scary thing of quantum biology, but it's not nearly as scary as I think people would think. So, brother, give us that introduction to who you are and then a little bit on why in the world did our paths even cross?
Sure. Well, it's a joy to be here with you and your awesome audience. Well, for me, it was really simple. Um, I guess to start from the beginning in a nutshell, I'm a Christian American heterosexual pro-gun liberty-minded permaculture designer. So when you add all that up, um, it's probably easier to find Bin Laden than somebody like me. I have the permaculture PIMP cast, and PIMP, of course, stands for Permaculture is My Passion. And also, I have a YouTube channel called Perma Pastures Farm, and where we evangelize this magnificent design science called permaculture. But as you know, and as you and I have talked privately a number of times, it's so many. I mean, whether I was working as a journeyman electrician or whether I was working as a farmer, it doesn't matter. Every single one of us in this space has been doing things historically backwards. And what I mean by that is, up until the time I met you or until I came across your podcast, I swear, Logan, every single day would be the same sort of thing. And it didn't matter what time of year. I do all my work in the morning, and I'm talking outside work. I do all my work in the evening, just like every other farmer out there, just like everybody in construction. And then midday, I would do whatever clerical work I needed done in the house. Well, I came across you. Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit. There was somebody, and it was strange how this all just kind of came together. It was somebody listening to my podcast said, "Hey, I think you ought to check this guy out. I think you'd like him." And it was the interviews that Dr. Kruse did on Danny Jones. I, from the word go, from start to finish, I'm telling you, I can't even tell you how many times I listened to that podcast. There's so many nuggets in there. And so that opened up the door. And it wasn't even a day later I'm looking up Jack Kruse on YouTube, and then the first thing I find is your podcast. And so I go through and I listen to everything you had. Then I was like, okay, man, who is this Logan dude? Let me check him out. So I download your podcast and I start binging it. And I'm like, dude, this guy, okay, I got to have him on the show. And so I've had you on twice and I can't wait to do it again because in all honesty, Jack Kruse is fantastic. In fact, his information has been paradigm changing for me and my wife and other people that are within my orbit. But I got to be honest with you, man, your podcast has been an even greater blessing because not only are you covering the information that he covers, but you break it down to those of us that are more in the novice state of things. You break it down. Look, man, I'm a country boy, and you break it down in language. I know Jack says he doesn't dumb it down, and I don't think that's what you're doing. You make it understandable for a guy who works with his hands every day, which is what I am. And my wife, honestly, she's your biggest fan, bro. I can't wait for you to meet her at this festival we got coming up next year, because I swear she is your biggest fan because you break it down in a way to where I'm like, okay, what's my marching orders? I go out there, I get them, I drive on, and then, what's done is done. So, bro, you've been twice the blessing to me than probably I'll ever be for you. But man, it has been a joy to get to follow your work. All the people you interview, your sidekick, man, she's a blessing as well. I can't even begin to tell you, bro. Everything in my life has changed on a dime, and I think a lot of it centers around the work that you've done in your podcast.
Man, that's deep. Thank you, brother. Yeah, Petra is amazing. I cannot wait to meet your wife. But you're in that transition that is so important for, in my opinion, to get our country back on track because our farmers, our food providers are that front line. And we're in a really bad situation on all of it, right? And just where the country is, where the food system is, the health crisis, on and on, right? We could go on that forever. But what I have had a hard time, and what I really wanted to highlight with you is why that seems to be so challenging for our agricultural people to understand the health side. And it's been really it's been frustrating because I love these people. They see it when they're talking about soil, they see it when they're talking about plants and livestock and rotational grazing and doing things in line with nature, but their healths are a disaster. Right. And so you've been implementing those things. So Billy, what is that biggest game changer for you is as you're implementing this, and why do you think there is that little bit, not a little bit, a huge disconnect from regenerative agriculture, but then self help?
Man, this is a loaded question. It's going to take a minute to unfold, but let me first say, as I told you before we began this podcast, I was just at Homesteaders of America last weekend. And it's every single weekend this month, whether the following or this weekend, I'll be at Mountain Readiness. And then the following week after that, Healing for the Ages. And then, throughout the fall, a lot of people want me to speak at different places or be a part of whatever they have going on. So I'm going to be pretty darn busy. But what I told you, what I didn't tell you is if you go to Homesteaders of America, and I don't know how to say this, it's not just there, it's every other place where you see a lot of farmers, permaculture, homesteaders, whatever the case, you will see by and large a collection of people that are in the worst shape you can imagine. Now, I'm not saying this to be highly critical because I myself at one point in time was exactly like so many others out there. I mean, you will see people that are dealing with dreadful, curable ailments that they don't have to suffer through. And trying to get them to understand, hey, you know what? I found this dude named Logan, man. I've been following his protocol and Dr. Kruse, and my life has changed on a dime. And for some reason, there's a guy with a lot of sense that once said, there's no amount of evidence can shatter a faith consciously based on a lie. So they have within their heads this framework, this ideology, this mindset that this is the way it's always done. This is the way we ought to do it. And so you're already in an uphill battle with a lot of the folks that work in this space. Here's the crazy part about it, and I'll go back to my own story. If there is a person on this planet that is more decentralized in how they govern their farm than me or my family, I don't know who that is. And I'm saying all this to make a point. We grow, depending on the system we use, if we're using what's called the chicken tractor on steroids, we raise all of our meat birds, all of our eggs for free. In fact, we make money on the deal because we produce a cubic yard of compost up to 3 cubic yards per week. Okay, all of our ruminants, we raise them for free, and we use methods that I didn't invent. I'm just taking people like Joel Salatin, Jim Garish, Greg Judy, all these heroes in this space, and we're realizing, you mean I don't have to feed hay all through the winter? I can just stockpile forage? Never heard of that, even though it seems like common sense. So bam, we raise all of our ruminants for free. Our pigs are the only thing we spend any money for, and that's because we don't farrow our own pigs. So we buy baby pigs or piglets, and then we raise them up. And then we raise all of these guys, all of our omnivores, we raise with waste streams. So all of the waste streams that are coming out of some of these organic restaurants that, I'm about 45 minutes north of Asheville, I'm the final user from a lot of these places, whether it's organic bread. My pigs and chickens eat better than most people. I kid you not. So our claim to fame has been, we have been showing people how to decentralize your farm. And I thought, man, I really got this down to a science. Come to find out, when I came across Jack's first interview, I'm realizing, bro, I got the farm figured out, but the most important part is myself. And I'll be honest with you, bro, it was like somebody put my junk in a bear trap, because I was sitting here thinking, dude, how can you be so awake and how aware of how getting back to nature and running your animals this way is the solution for your animals and everything on your farm? There is no waste streams on this farm, none. Every single thing, well, except for any citrus, which we don't even eat anymore anyway, because we don't grow citrus here in Western North Carolina, thanks to what I learned from you. So everything is either, if it lived, it'll live again. And usually that means in a compost pile or in the gut of some other animal. I said all that to say this. The reason why I think so many farmers, even the ones that are very, very decentralized, I think they're missing the boat on this. It could be for, well, historical reasons, like grandma and grandpa always did it this way. So let's just go out there, put Roundup on everything and do this. We know that that is a solution to nothing. In fact, it will keep you on that treadmill forever and ever. And what I've known in permaculture, what I've known in regenerative agriculture is that for every single step I move towards nature, I get 10 of them back to me. So then it only when I saw your work and the work of Dr. Kruse, I'm like, dude, I felt like a complete nincompoop at first. I mean, I had that the first time I heard it, I knew this has got to be right. So the first thing I did was like, okay, well, let me try it out. Let me see if it works because intuitively I kind of knew that it would. So I changed everything up. Instead of doing all my work in the morning and in the evening, I'm making sure I got myself that D-Minder app that I got from one of your guests that recommended it before. I think it was Dr. Alexis Cowan. So I got the D-Minder app, and I'm like, okay, once I figure this thing out, I'm like, okay, how do I do every single thing I need to do outside when I'm able to get vitamin D? And then all of a sudden, I noticed things start changing. I mean, in a massive way. I started, number one, I found out that maintaining a healthy weight was not even, it wasn't even a problem. I mean, I was losing weight and I still wasn't hungry. I was like, okay. And then I come across another podcast of yours where I'm like, hold on, you mean I'm actually eating when I'm barefoot and in the sun? Kind of doing all this at the same time? So now it's become something of an addiction, at least to where I am right now. Going back to your central question though, why are other people not seeing it? I think it goes back to that quote, no amount of evidence can shatter a faith consciously based on a lie. So many of us are so willing to be spoon fed information, whether it's through the media systems, whether it's from a podcast you like, and we never, ever, ever in the course of our lives ask any critical questions after we get out of corporeal or compulsory education. We get to that point where we feel like, okay, we've arrived. And I'm realizing now that, well, I've always realized that I never am ever going to find it out. And I knew that just from the basic farming that I do. But I did not even in a million years stop to think that maybe those same, it is an axiomatic truth that apply to my animals. Why don't they apply to me? And so now all of a sudden, because of your work and because of Dr. Kruse, I'm sitting here saying, huh, I observe my animals in a very different way now. I watch how they treat sunlight, what they do when there's very seldom any clouds in the sky. I mean, there seems like they're spraying every other day. Well, especially, well, not right now when when the government's on shutdown or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, so we're not, skies are pretty clear right now. But if you observe what your animals do when they have availability of sun, everything in your paradigm changes. So it changed in me. But man, this is why I wanted you so badly on the show, on my show, was because I was like, good night. This is this is paradigm changing in so many different ways. It wasn't a hard sell to get my wife on board. Um, and I got to be well. Look, I'm going to quit monologuing for a second here because honestly, I'm so blown away with what I've learned from you that I could go on and on and on about the benefits of all this stuff. But bro, you've been a true blessing in my life and my wife as well. And I am trying to, as much as I evangelize permaculture, I'm trying and telling everybody as often as I can, man, you have got to check out Logan over there. You've got to listen to what he's putting out because, bro, it's truly paradigm changing in every way imaginable.
Billy, I appreciate that. I'm just excited that y'all are doing so good with it too. But you know, I came from this like everybody else in like looking for food. You know, after Lander was diagnosed with cancer, it was like, well, what's the perfect anti-cancer diet, right? And so that led me into more of the agriculture, and then having the market. I'm in the food system, right? Like I know this was my world. I get that, and so when I interviewed Jack for the first time, I don't know if you listened to the very first one
Oh, I
ever.
did.
I'm like, I wasn't actually asking him about food, but I was asking about fixing the food system, and he just straight up, like, in Jack Kruse fashion, gave me a good punch in the gut and said, "You can't fix it. That's not the problem, right? Like, boom, it's this, right? It's light, water, magnetism." And so I I had my brain scrambled with the first time of Jack, and I've just been able to take on this whole regenerative agriculture and food focus and tie it into Jack's work, and it has made a massive impact on everybody. And this is where we've had, you brought up Petra earlier. These principles are how we're going to cure cancer. when we figure out cancer, we figure out every other disease, right? Like this is the cancer is the booger, that big one that you figure it, as Brian Tracy, wrote Eat That Frog. Like that's the biggest, nastiest, gnarliest frog is cancer. And so every single way of approaching this goes back to God's laws, the natural laws. It's and so we've even added a little bit more, Billy, in my framework, building on Jack. He has to get all the credit, right? Like he brought it in, just like you were talking about with the Danny Jones podcast. It's light, water, magnetism, temperature, and time, right? Like this in my framework is where I can apply that temperature and time to the farmers, right? Because there is a temperature that we can plant, right? There's a temperature that things die, that grow. There's a time that we do this, and all of that also affects, lots of crossover between light, water, magnetism. But I want to essentially save the world, right? Save our country by getting people back their time and their health, right? And get them on mission for doing things that are feeding people. So, what is the biggest first thing that you feel was the needle mover? And before you answer that, can you kind of like hit list some of the things that you and your wife are facing with, sleep apnea or in any sort of chronic disease, and then what was that biggest needle mover that you noticed?
Sure. For me, right off the bat, it was sleep apnea and high blood pressure. And of course, I had quit taking the lisinopril that they gave me years ago. And no matter what they gave me, it never moved the needle one bit. Sleep apnea. They told me when I was diagnosed with it after leaving the army, they told me I had the worst case they had ever seen. In fact, it was so bad that I nearly got kicked out of basic training because I snored so loud. I'd be in the field out there and guys were like, "What on earth is that?" Of course, I had to be told this, but always had a headache, all this, all that. Tried everything, tried a good diet or what they said is a good diet. I tried it all, bro. I mean, when I say I tried it all, I tried it all. And I'm one of those people that when I'm on board with something, um, there is no going back. I mean, I will give it 100%. I will not go halfway. And nothing ever moved the needle permanently. Nothing ever was sustaining. So when I came across you and Jack, I was like, okay, there's a whole lot to digest here. And like every other thing that's a major thing in your life, this isn't a war you win in miles. You win it in inches. So the first thing I said, okay, what can I do starting tomorrow? And it was quite literally that. And I told my wife, I said, you got to listen to this podcast. And then I sent her over to yours. And of course, she subscribed immediately and started listening to everything. So first thing that I did right off the bat is I'm number one, because I work for myself, I'm able all day long to some capacity or another. I'm always educating myself. It doesn't even matter. It's on a podcast, it's on something, an audiobook, you name it. I'm always learning something. So I said, okay, what's the first thing I can do? Well, right off the bat, the first thing I did was with the sunlight. I changed up everything. I was like, okay, instead of doing all my work in the morning, and then I realized my whole life, I've never been getting vitamin D. I've been doing everything outside the window that narrow, depending on where your latitude is. I've been doing everything outside of that because I was believing these, people think MD stands for medical doctor. Well, a lot of them, including my oldest brother, think it stands for medical deity. They're telling me stay out of the light, wear shades, do all these different things. Well, in that first, couple of podcasts, I'm realizing, man, I'm doing everything wrong. Okay, shades go away. I'm going to go find the best blue light blockers I can get. I'm going to buy those. Okay, while I'm waiting on those, what can I do tomorrow? Okay, first thing I'm going to do, go out there and get sun. I didn't have the app then, and I don't think you necessarily need it, but I didn't have it. But that was the first thing I did, and I'll tell you what I noticed right off. It maybe wasn't the first day because I still wasn't watching my light in the evening. I didn't yet know how critical that was as well. So I was still looking at blue light after a time where you would naturally get it. And so I didn't see the needle move all that much, although I did see an improvement in my sleep, but I'm still using the machine. So it was a week later, and all of a sudden, not using the machine. In fact, I was using it and I was waking up with a headache. My son, who was a sleep medicine tech, he said, Dad, I think maybe you ought to take that thing off. I did. Took it off, haven't worn it since. In fact, I need to go throw it in the dumpster, even though they told me I had the worst case of sleep apnea they've ever seen. And so I was like, okay, now I'm excited. I'm like, okay, cool. Got rid of that thing. What else can we get rid of? Or what else can we add? Then the blue light blockers came in, but all the while I'm educating myself. I'm listening to everything you're putting out. And I'm listening to everything I can find, even years old from Dr. Kruse. Learning, learning, learning. Okay, now my hygiene, my light hygiene, I got to get this right. So every light in this house, notwithstanding the studio I'm in right now, but I take precautions. I'm grounded the whole 9 yards. I do what I can. And of course, the window's wide open. So every light bulb in here got changed out with those nearer light bulbs. Very expensive. And now I got incandescents on the way on a dimmer because I am a journeyman electrician, have been one for 30 years almost. And I'm like, okay, let's get that right. So even come up with other hacks. Let's say you want to sit down and watch a show on TV. I went and bought this red light film. I think I sent it through you,
Did, yeah.
sent it to you through a text. And it blocks out. And folks, if you wonder whether or not there's not a one on the market that works, ask me how I know, Logan. I bought them all and I sent them all back. They say, oh, this will block all the blue light. Well, if you think it blocks the blue light, go put on your blue light blockers. And if that color changes, it ain't working. So I was like, okay, I got to find a DIY thing, which turned out to be less expensive than a $30 DIY fix. So I'm like, okay, well, we want to sit down and watch some TV. Bam, I'll get that squared away. Other things we were having problems with is EMF problems. Even though I live in a rural, very rural, when I say rural, folks, I'm talking, I'm outside with no clothes on, no shoes on 90% of the time. That's how rural I live. Nobody's around here. But we even had EMF problems that were happening not only through the dirty electricity that were coming through, but some of the other things. And I'm like, okay, all of those problems started going away. And then I found out from you the benefit of melanin. And as I'm getting darker, as I'm doing all these mitigation strategies, I'm like, this is easier than all of the other things I did. This is an easier strategy. It just takes a little bit of retraining. You have to say, okay, the sun's going down. Okay, am I going to go out there and watch the sunset, which is a little difficult to do where I live in the mountains, but you're like, okay, do I go down and watch the sunset? Now I'm going to go in the house. My whole life, I just flip on the light. Don't do that anymore. Every time that sun goes down, even though the pernicious things around your house are kicking off blue light, but you don't even think about it. It could be that electronic thermostat you have. It could be the coffee maker, all the lights in the fridge. So what I did, I took that same stuff that I put over the TV, covered up everything from the light in the fridge to you name it, the coffee pot. You got to press through that little red plastic to get through it. But every little pernicious thing that you don't even think about, those were the things I started working on next. And so now it's a everyday thing where now I'll be honest with you, Logan, to this point, I am so on board that to do it the wrong way drives me crazy. And that's why I intentionally, whenever I have meetings, I make sure those meetings are outside the opportunity of me getting vitamin D if I can possibly help it. That's why I told you I nearly did this interview. If I didn't have my Great Pyrenees out right now, I would have been outside out there in the sun with no shirt on doing this interview. So that's how ingrained it is into my mind. And also knowing that anything we are told, anything we are officially told, it turns out to be a manufactured lie. So I'm doing the very opposite. I'm basically raising up myself the way I raise my animals now. And I'm seeing the needle move in the most massive way, in undreamed of ways. Now, I may be different than a lot of folks out there because I don't do anything halfway. When I find out some new way of doing things, I'm like, okay, I heard Erwin LaCour on your podcast. I'm like, okay, let me go find. I bought his course, so
Yeah.
now I'm doing the static breath holds every morning. It is like clockwork, bro. I do the people care in permaculture. We have 3 ethics: earth care, people care, and abundance given to the previous 2. I make sure that people care is at the top of my list every day because I'm 55 years old, bro. I'm not getting any younger. I live in a very rugged environment. And if I'm going to do this work that I love, if I'm going to evangelize this magnificent design science we call permaculture, then I'm going to have to be in good health. And I can't be staggering up and down these. All the knee issues, all those other things, bro, they're gone. Absolutely, positively gone. This is why I'm telling everybody I possibly can to look at your work. Now, and by and large, I'm not always successful. In fact, it seems the people that are most in need of it are the ones that are hardest to get on board. I'm doing little things like, hey, check out this Erwin LaCour, going through his course, doing the static breath holds, man. I started off, I'm not finished with it yet, but when I started off, I could hold my breath maybe a minute and a half. I'm up to 2 minutes and 36 seconds right now. And I increase it every single day, or, when I'm not, battling a cold or something like that. And all these things are making massive differences in my life. When I'm out here doing my rebounding or I'm jogging every day, which I'm able to do now. When I'm able to do these things, I'm also weaving in permaculture, we stack functions. So I'm like, okay, why can't I get sunlight? Why can't I be active? And why can't I do the breathing all at the same time? So I'm getting better at this and I'm stacking functions and I'm becoming something of a Zen master in my own life. And it's folks, I'm telling you, if you've ever wondered whether or not you can do this, well, I'm a living example that you can. Because honestly, everything, and then that's another thing you helped me out on, Logan, too. The the 100 vitamins that I was taking a day, 100, bro, 100. Everybody from these people that they call biohackers and all these others, bro, I'm not. In fact, I found out that was one of the last things I got rid of. And talking to you, I was like, man, I just feel like I don't feel wonderful. I got rid of all those vitamins. Now I feel like $1 million. So I still don't understand the reasons why, but after the last time I talked to you privately, excuse me, I got rid of all those things. I mean, minus the fulvic and humic acids. I do use some of those things, but outside of that, the multivitamins, all the oils, all those things, bro, it's out the door. I got a whole cabinet full of stuff. Maybe I need to sell it on Amazon or something, but
Try try
or put
getting
it in
that
the
movie.
compost pile. Maybe that'd be a better use for it.
There you go. Man, this is exactly why I wanted to have this conversation publicly with you is because you have been so passionate and so bought in, and you are just a perfect testament of what we can do. Right, like this is it. If you listen to what Billy just said, this is a very inexpensive way about approaching everything too. The only cost really is some discipline, right? You bought some of Scott's near lights, but those are kind of expensive. We don't even have to go to that extreme, right? We can get a reptile bulb that's a fraction of that bulb, or we can just not use it. We can use candles, right? They're just little things. So Billy, this is perfect in the message. We're doing it right. Like you've got an event coming up next year where Barbara O'Neill's headlining it, and I'll be there presenting as well at North Carolina. And you're getting the message out. You're doing the work. You're the beacon for what we can do, but you're also putting out the awareness and making it really attainable. So I just couldn't be happier. Just listening to you and the results you and your wife are getting. That's why I do this, right? To, that is the biggest reward I think I could possibly have is just the happiness and passion that I get to see. It's awesome.
Well, let me tell you something you don't know. You inspired that event next year, believe it or not. You are a big inspiration for that event next year. And yeah, Barbara O'Neill's headlining, but we're using her as bait for people to hear you. I'm dead serious, bro. I don't know I don't think I told you this before. You can ask my wife if what I'm telling you is true. I mean, getting Barbara O'Neill is like trying to find Bin Laden, bro. Like I said before, it's hard to book her, and she's not cheap. And so I was like, how do I get the world to hear this information? How do I do it? I don't yet have the pocketbook, I think, to get in Jack Kruse yet, but the following year, he's going to be the one we're shooting for. I'm hoping to make enough money on this to be able to pay for him to come. But honestly, we use Barbara. You can ask my wife if I'm lying to you. Um, I'm using Barbara as bait to get folks in there, but my number one motive was to get them to hear your information. Yeah, we got a whole line of speakers up there, and I'm hoping not everybody on the stage I'm going to agree with, not even Barbara, who, by the way, got me banned off of YouTube for 2 weeks because she brought up how an element on the periodic table might be able to cure an ailment that you have. I won't bring it up right now, but I'll tell you privately. But yeah, that the results have been so staggering for us that we were like, okay, how do we evangelize this in a massive way? So the idea is to bring in you along with Barbara, and don't worry, we'll have a discount code here before long for you, for your audience out there to come hear you, because we're like, how do we get more people to hear this? And folks, by and large, they're going to go for the person who's most heavily. I like Barbara, and I've spoken on the stage with her before. Nothing wrong with her, and I love a lot of what she stands for. But you have a gift for communicating what can be very complex ideas. For those of us out here that are just busy with the grind, man, I haven't taken the time to examine the studies the way you have or understand. Um, for example, on your recommendation, I got the Body Electric right here sitting next to me. Haven't even read it yet, but I'm going to, and I need to make that a higher priority. There are other references out there that I got, to get hopping and popping on. But honestly, the number one motive is to get people to realize I'm like, man, if I've been, they wanted to put me on blood pressure medicine for 30 years. I quit taking it years ago because I couldn't stand the way it made me feel. And I'm like, hold on. I changed all this around, this sleep apnea. There's probably other things that I'm recovering from that I'm not even aware of. And I'm like, okay, if I'm seeing these staggering results from your work, how do we get this guy a stage? How do we get him up there? And I know you're too modest to say, hey, man, but honestly, you are, if you ask my wife, you are the number one motive. And the idea after this show is the following year is to bring in an entire show of people like you and the guests you've had on. Um, Tried reaching out to some of your other guests, but they haven't reached back. Um, we're not the Rockefellers, I mean, we have limited funds, but honestly, if I'm going to pay it forward and do it in the way that really matters to me, it's making sure people like you have a platform that makes sense. Because you know what? You got people out there like Joel Salatin talking about how you make your farm awesome. You got people out there like Greg Judy. You got all these other heroes in the farm space that are as decentralized as you could ever dream of being when it comes to animal health. It just doesn't make sense to me to not apply those same things to my own life. And we're going to make sure we're going to do, I mean, provided that the world stays spinning and provided we still have an earth, because I am a farmer, I'm going to kind of need an earth. And judging by what's going on in this world right now, it seems questionable as to whether or not we will from day to day. But provided everything keeps spinning, bro, the idea is to get to the point where we have a decentralized um, gathering. I'll call it that, festival, whatever the case may be, to make it where it's as cool, it's as in vogue as anything out there. Because honestly, I've never saved more money by doing what you require, and it's never been easier. And my sleep has never been better. And, some things may cost money. I did spend a pile of money to get that Magnetico sleeping, those magnets. I sleep on about 320 pounds of magnets every day. Now that'll cost you money,
That
but do
was
you
a
need
shot.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily need it, but it's things like that. Like I told you, bro, I don't go halfway. It's either go all the way. When once I saw that needle move, I'm like, how is everybody not doing this just by getting up I'm already up anyway. It never even occurred to me to go out there and stare directly at the sun. My wife and I, every single day, bro, I'm naked as a jaybird out there. I don't care what the weather is. I'm naked facing east. As soon as that sun comes up over that mountain, I'm sitting out there, not sitting, actually out there, and I'm combining things. I'm listening to my Bible study. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm sitting out there and I'm looking at that sunrise and I'm like, oh yeah, this is how it's done, bro. This is how it's done. It's things like that, I mean, bro, I'm sorry if I'm just monologuing too much, man. I'm just so excited that I've come across you. I've asked the good Lord, please put the right people in my path. Please let me come across these people that are going to move the needle in a massive way. And, it was people like you and Dr. Kruse that have made the most profound difference in my life and that of my wife. I mean, I won't go into her medical issues, but all but gone. I mean, there's some other things that we have going on that are more I guess I can't really get into it here in this podcast so much, but honestly, there are other things that we do that have incurred the displeasure of the witches and Wiccans out there. Every time I speak in a crowd, there's always witches in the back trying to put a hex on a brother. That's other things altogether, but those are things of a spiritual nature. And that's part of what we battle against, not flesh and blood, but principalities and powers, wickedness in high places, all those things that we battle. But as far as the things I can deal with, bro, it's your work and Dr. Kruse that has honestly moved the needle in a massive way. There
Appreciate
ain't no
that.
going back.
I love it, brother. We just got to get continue getting it out. So, let's dive into a little bit about what that food system really means within what we face, right? Like, so, I recently had Adam Chappell on, who's an Arkansas farmer. He's just right down the road from me, but been really attempting to go from that commodity to regenerative ag. A lot of struggles. We've seen all in the news and stuff to where there's big bailouts needing. We're facing epic bankruptcies for farmers, and so like we've got a big problem. So when when I give out dietary guidelines, right? It's extremely complicated. It just blows people's minds, right? It's just three little things: local, seasonal, and natural. Like, it does it grow there? Does it grow when you're there? And is it in a form that is as close to it was when it was not food, right? So like that's it. It is super easy, but it is challenging for, and I really don't like this word, but for consumers to understand the importance of that, right? Like, we have to have an inlet for, say, you're some sort of a chronic condition and you need help. Well, diet matters, right? But this is kind of that end. So, from your perspective on the health side, right, and then from the agriculture side, why is that something that is so unbelievably important? And maybe any ideas that you have to get more people to understand that importance?
Yeah, bro. Once again, every step you take towards nature, you'll get 10 of them back to you. And we see that in everything we've done. Part of what we do around here is when we had that hurricane that hit Western North Carolina, we had a bunch of toxins flood alongside the river, wipe people out completely. We've proven, we've proven that using bacteria, fungi, nematodes, protozoa, arthropods, all those things, we've actually taken it, and along with that, a series of extremophiles. We've basically taken ground, and we have the lab test, 30,000 bucks of my own money to sit here and get lab tests. Yeah, to find reliable lab technicians. We've done scalar testing. We did lab testing. We took the most polluted place in all of Western North Carolina, turned it around in 6 months. Why? Because you can go out there, you can put, like, when they had the Gulf oil spill, you can go out there and put core exit out there, and all it's going to do is sink it to the bottom, but you're not eating it up. You're not letting nature do what nature does. So I said all that to say this. We've The closer we get to nature, and this applies to everything, we're going to get 10 steps back to us. I know that I've said that a number of times, but I can't emphasize it enough. And because we live in a curry and a hurry society, we live in a place where we know the price of everything and the value of nothing. Think about that. The price of everything and the value of nothing. So what's the value taking your work? Because I remember asking you a while back, I remember you had asked Jack Kruse a question regarding fermented food, and I was like, man, that was the exact question I had. And then I hit you up asking for the answer. If I'm eating local, like these sheep I have out here right now, if I'm eating local, like you said before, and you made it make sense to me, it has an electromagnetic barcode, I think is the term you used for everything that grows local to me. Okay, that's not difficult to do. You just have to rearrange your lifestyle. So let's say for a lot of people, that means going to a legit, and I say a legitimate farmer's market where you can get legitimate local things. And you'll know whether or not these people got it out of a buck, off a box, off of a truck, or whether they grew it at their own place. You don't need a good eye to see all that. So if it's grown local at the farmer's market, the easiest thing is to just buy it from the farmer's market if you can't produce it at home. If you can produce it at home, every single day of the year, Logan, I make sure that I eat something off of my farm, even in the dead of winter. I'm making sure that I'm getting those microbes from my food, from my farm. And I was doing this even before I found your work. Um, whether it's from the high tunnel, it doesn't matter. There's something growing at some time of year. And through the summer, I mean, through the winter, okay, what do I got growing out here? You got turkeys, you got deer, you got all the stuff I'm growing out here, but they are local to me. And once I figured that out, I'm like, okay, it didn't get harder. It just got easier. But we are hooked into a commodity systems. To explain this better, I'll give you a brief example. I was invited early on when people found out the work I was doing here in Western North Carolina. Nobody believed it. I mean, nobody believed that I was actually raising all these animals for free and making money, that we had a profitable farm doing all this stuff. Nobody believed it. So they invited me to go to this farmers meeting. And of course, I went there and it was blowing my mind. I'm sitting here asking folks, okay, what issues do you want to talk about? And nobody were here in the mountains. Nobody's really a grain commodities farmer. You're not going to find that out here, but everybody's growing, pastured pork, pastured chickens, things like that. Every single issue they brought up to me, I give them a solution. I'm not saying that I'm not some sage, but every single, like, for example, it's costing me a fortune to raise these chickens. And I'm like, well, why don't you go down to Chipotle, get all of the rice and beans they throw out? It's non-GMO. Feed that to your chickens. They're omnivores. Or feed it to your pigs. Bro, just so you know, a little side note, I've taught entire classes on how to feed your animals for free. Just one visit to Chipotle per week in Asheville, North Carolina was enough to feed, you could feed easily 6 pigs and about 100 chickens from just one visit a week. So I'm telling these folks, look, you got all these farm to table restaurants here. They brag about all the farmers they got it from. Take their food scraps. You save them a fortune on dumpster costs because now they don't have to put it in the dumpster. And then you give them a little bit, maybe you give them some duck eggs, maybe you give some chicken eggs. There's so many ways to go about this. Had a local college, true story. They were wanting to get rid of all of the food scraps, by the way, organic food scraps, or University of North Carolina in Asheville. So my wife tells me about it. I call them up. Lady, all I'm wanting is the food scraps. And she's like, I talked to the lady on the phone and she says, well, okay, could you tell us what you intend to do with it? And I'm like, well, I intend to make the world's best compost out of it. You never tell them you're going to feed animals because the answer is always going to be no. So I tell them I'm going to make the world's best compost out of it, which I'm not lying. It's exactly what I'm doing. And she says, okay, would all we can offer right now is about $1,000 a month. I was stunned on the other side of the phone. Hold on. I was expecting to go in there and get them for free. She says, we can have our people sort it all for you and do all this and that. And I'm standing on the other end of the phone like, what, huh? And she's like, we might be able to give you 2,000. I'm like, what? She says, and bro, this is the part that really blew me away. She says, but here's the thing. We have about 700 pounds of organic food waste per day. 100 pounds per day. Remember, I told you I can go to Chipotle, feed 6 pigs and 100 meat birds, all from one visit. How many animals do you think you could feed a day if you're getting, and these kids, these highfalutin kids these days want all organic stuff. So my point being, they send me in here to this farm meeting. I'm going back to that now. I can't afford to raise these chickens and make a profit. I'm like, well, bro, I just gave you the solution for that. Go down to this college, tell them Billy sent you. We can't raise our cows and make a profit. Well, then I come to find out, well, you're feeding them grain. That's a problem because cows were never meant to eat grain. Okay, for a pasture-raised, grass-fed cow, you're going to need 28 months generally. Okay, so you're going to take some time. You're also mismanaging your paddocks. Can't do that. Can't just stick them out there. Or, hey, we got pigs that we can't feed. You know what? You don't want to go to the college? We got all these other places that are giving away. Bro, I am having to turn people away. I would have to make compost out of all this stuff. So going back to the system is that of the, 30 farmers that were in that room, not a single one took the same methods I've made to make myself profitable, highly profitable, so profitable, in fact, that I retired at 48. So if these methods work, and I'm proving that they work, I've taught a number of people how they work. Why is it we can't get these farmers who should know better? You're just so addicted to the cycle that you can't say, maybe there is a better way. And there is a better way. That's why I'm saying on this farm, nothing goes to waste. I show people, because I've been trained by Michelin star chefs on how to process an animal and do it properly and beautifully, make it ethical, do all these things. Well, every time I process a pig or chickens, we feed everything to chickens. We feed everything to chickens but chicken. We feed everything to pork but pigs. So everything that I don't give to the compost pile, it goes to the pork. And everything that doesn't go to the pork, I mean, it goes vice versa. And you never have to worry about, you can make money at farming if you quit, and it even applies to the commodity farmers out there. Because as I told you from the very beginning of this question, how we were able to take forever chemicals out there and tie them up in medium and long chain carbonic acids in 6 months is undreamed of. Undreamed of. And all we did was take biocomplete compost that we made right here on this farm, along with some extremophiles that I got from Dr. Will Spencer. All we did was combine these two, best of both worlds. Didn't know that it would work, but testing proved that inside of 6 months, that nearly all, and I can't even tell mainstream science this. I can't even tell them that, because they say it's an impossibility. Let me just give you a brief story as to how I knew it was possible. Check this out. Right after, and not many people know this story, right after the Chernobyl disaster in Russia, of course, they had Geiger counters everywhere. Every place was absolutely just wiped out, except for one place. One place. And I can't remember the exact location in Austria, but it was called I want to call it the Anastasia Farm. That's not the name of it, but it'll come back to me. They were growing brassicas that time of year. So your cabbages, your broccoli, all that good stuff. They could not even then get a Geiger counter to go off at that farm. And to this day, they've never been able to get a Geiger counter to go off on, it's called the Lubka farm, by the way. It just came to me. I believe that's how it's spelled, the Lubka farm. Couldn't get a Geiger counter to go off, even though everything downstream of that thing was polluted. Nobody could figure out why. And then a few intrepid researchers figured out, what are they doing at that farm that's different from every other farm in Russia? Come to find out that they pioneered windrow composting. Same thing we do here. They were making biocomplete compost, and it was so pungent, so strong, so awesome that even the radiation, I would say the fungi within that compost was tying up that radiation before it could ever do any damage. From that day until now, there has never been a Geiger counter to go off on the Lubka farm. So all we did was take those methods that everybody tried to suppress. And it brings me back to the work of people like Becker and Marino and a lot of the other people that they've tried to take their work and suppress it. You know, like Bill Mollison said, the problems of this world become more and more complex, but the solutions are embarrassingly simple. Once you find out that all you need to do is make really awesome compost, you'll be shocked at what you can do. You'll be surprised at the food you can produce. You'll be shocked at how nutrient dense it can be. Only when we do it in the dictates of nature, which takes me right back. That's why the words you said and what Dr. Kruse say make all the sense in the world, because I had it all figured out when it came to my animals. I got it all figured out when it comes to my brassicas. Got it all figured out with the things in the high tunnel. Got it all figured out with everything but me. So that's why I said when I take the humic and fulvic acids, my compost is so great you can drink it. You can drink it. That's how good it is. So, of course, we look at it under the microscope to make sure it's all good. But that's the point, is that all these commodity farmers, all these people, I could make them, well, I can't say but taking the work of people like Dr. Elaine Ingham and a number of others, I'm a student of her work, been through her course and the whole 9 yards, just taking all this work, which means getting right back to nature. You can find out that all of these fields, probably in areas more situated closer to you, you don't need all these forever chemicals out there. You don't need anhydrous ammonia. You don't need nitrogen made through the Haber-Bosch process, which, by the way, is only a salt that you're putting down in the soil. You don't need any of those things. All you need is to make a compost extract, in most cases, put it on that soil. Nature is never, ever bare, so you never leave a bare field out there, going back to the work of people like Masanobu Fukuoka, using all these methods that have been around forever and ever, that have been hidden, that have been suppressed, that have been pushed away from us. Our number one export in this country, in the United States of amnesia, is soil. It's going down the Mississippi, and we got the ways to halt it and bring it back, But the powers that shouldn't be would rather have us in this cycle of going through things where we need these nitrogen-based fertilizers, which we prove you don't need. I mean, experiment after experiment that we've conducted here, you don't need any of it. You just need good compost, and you need good methods, and also a little bit of education. And that's why I'm saying that's why the work of you and Dr. Kruse has been so profound. I wasn't a hard sell. I really wasn't. I wasn't a hard sell at all. That's because I'm like, okay, I'm already there on these other things. Now I just need to get myself dragging across the finish line, which we're doing every single day around here.
Y'all are doing it. Again, I absolutely love it. The knowledge and work that you've put out around agriculture and permaculture, and you do a lot of freedom and awareness stuff that is extremely important too. Too many of us are scared to kind of speak up, to be, quote unquote political. But like, if there is anybody that is more objective and neutral and not one way or another than you, I don't know them, right? Like you're equally after everybody. so so don't anybody listen to this. Don't think that we're talking to an extremist on one way or another. I promise we're not. But Billy, this is so important. Love your podcast. Everybody should check out the PIMP podcast, PIMPcast. Your work, the book, your son's work. Trying to get him into Arkansas to kind of do a big sheep consult. There's so much going on, and I want, as we wrap this up, to emphasize the hope. It just takes that person in the mirror, putting in the work, understanding health and time. All of that is what is most important, and that we can get this mission going. We can make a massive change, and we're doing it. Like, the network's there. I'm super excited about the future. As scary as things, see, we've got this, and so thank you for what you're doing. It's amazing.
Well, bro, at the end of the day, I'm glad you brought up that part of it too, because at the end of the day, I think you're either an activist or an inactivist, but either way, you're involved. So that's why I talk about, and I'm a political atheist when you get down to brass tacks. I don't trust any of these people. If you're with the Constitution, then I'm with you. And that's where the bar is for me. I don't care. It's not red state, it's not blue state. It's the state against you. That's the way I've always seen it, and that's the way I'm always going to see it. I'm a big fan of the founding fathers. I'm a big fan of what this country was meant to be. But if at the end of the day, I can't do what I'm doing I can, and I'm doing it when they drop poison out of the sky. Okay, I'm going to speak up about that. But I also, on the same token, understand why people have this high degree of reluctance in talking about these other things, because it's like whack-a-mole. Every time you stand up, I'll do a front porch talk where I'm just kind of, just letting my heart out on the front porch, talking about what I think is important to me. And you'll see the algorithms on YouTube, and you'll see this thing. Wow, it's going parabolic, man. Everybody's checking this out. And then they realize that, oh, shoot, he just might wake up some people. Then all of a sudden they tamp it down. And you'll go from 300 comments all at once to 0. But at the end of the day, all I care about is that the good Lord puts it in front of the people that can use it. Because by and large, most people are not going to do anything with this stuff. But that's why I am so addicted and on point with the work you are putting out, bro. And why this podcast has been a massive blessing to me and my wife. And honestly, everybody out there that we send it off to, I'll be honest with you, Logan, I got a pretty big footprint out there, whether in the farm space or otherwise. The most troublesome thing to me is I've sent your work out to people that I know that are in horrendous, with some of the most awful diagnoses you can possibly hope for. And I'm like, hey, I've actually heard Logan talk about this, or I've heard Dr. Kruse talk about this. Let me send it over to this guy. Because if I tell them, they're just going to, they're not going to pay attention. Bro, I think I've actually had 2 people in all the people I know actually take that work and run with it. But like Dr. Kruse talks about, that's the quickest way to put yourself in an early grave, is sit here and beat yourself up over that. Look, you were out there doing what you were doing, and the good Lord had it come across my desk. And now I'm telling everybody about what you do. I was so inspired, and I'll say this again, so inspired that we started the Sovereign Health Summit to get you in front of thousands of people so they can see it. For me, to be able to say, you know what, folks, this has moved the needle in my life. It can happen for you too. You just got to make some basic, simple changes in your life. And that's how it works. Like I said from the very beginning, this isn't a war you win in miles, you win in inches. And you may be overwhelmed if you think I got to do A, B, C, and D. Just start with wherever you can start. And then from there, add a little bit more, then add a little bit more. And you will, bro, I have never seen the needle move in a more positive way in doing what you guys have taught me. And bro, it's been a real joy. I never thought I'd be on here because I you're a hero in my book, man. You don't wear a cape or anything like that, but you are a hero in my book, and it's been a joy to get to know you and be able to reach out to you when I got questions from time to time. So I'm not sure I've answered all your
Likewise.
questions in the way I'd
You
like,
have,
but
brother.
honestly,
Yeah.
you were coming into winter, so I'm gonna go more into my diet's about to change, as things kind of die off. It's apple season here in Western North Carolina. I'm about to go pick a whole bunch of them tomorrow. That's another thing, by the way, Logan, for all the people out there that are farmers. Let me just give one more tip out there. If you don't want to go to restaurants, if you don't want to go to colleges, you don't want to go to folks, I've done this in little one-horse towns in Texas, in DeKalb, Texas. Doesn't get any smaller than that. I've done this thing all over the United States of amnesia. But here's one little hack you can do right now. If you want to feed your chickens and your pigs for as free as you can manage, go to any apple orchard right now. I don't care what state you're in. It is not legal for them to sell apples that are on the ground and sell them to the general public. So what do you think happens when a guy like me shows up in my big old truck and I say, you know what? See, you got all them apples on the ground. You mind if I take them? They'll be like, no, I don't care. And what they're going to do half the time is just throw them they'll throw them in a dumpster. It's insane. Do you have any idea how many pigs and chickens you could feed just what comes from this one granddad's orchard, which is down the road from me? And of course, I got my own apple orchard out here, not enough for what I need, but it's off and running. I can go down there and I kid you not, in the course of the apple season, I could fill up my tundra probably 200 times to the brim and still not get all the apples that are on the ground. So, like I said, the problems of this world are more complex, but the solutions are embarrassingly simple. So that's what I do is I show people how you can raise your animals, especially your ruminants, for absolutely positively free.
I love that, brother. You got a lot of good stuff. As we wrap up, I wanted to get a hit list just if people are like confused about what does it mean, what kind of strategy. The strategy is very very simple. See the sunrise, right? Before when you get out of bed, don't flip on that bathroom light, the bedroom light, get blasted by the refrigerator, all those things. Just make your way outside, see that sunrise, relax, get your bare feet on the ground. The next thing that matters so much is just get a little bit of sun throughout all the days and don't block your photoreceptors. That's your eyes, that's your skin. Let the sun hit everything, right? And then when you get back when it's in the evening, don't turn on all the lights. You don't have it's like Billy laid out with the blue light blockers. If you're going to watch TV, get the blocking of the blue. The blue light is going to disrupt the melatonin. It's going to disrupt every part of the system. So if you get dark at night, you get that sunrise and you experience all the sun. That's the biggest takeaway. And it's crazy that light has that big of a impact. But when you understand photosynthesis, when the farmer's like, oh yeah, that's why this happens then. The sun, the temperature, all of these things, the water that's there, it clicks. It makes so much sense. So I have so many people. I get to hear these amazing stories of, hey, this has changed my life. It didn't cost me a lot of money. If you're going to spend money on supplements, it's water, right? Get you good high quality spring water. Don't trust the filters to change out your tap water. Look into something that the extreme is light water, but good quality spring water. That's Icelandic. There's a lot out there. I like a Alaskan glacier that has maybe been my new favorite, but light water is very expensive. Get the water right. That's the money you spend on the supplements. Outside of that, we really don't. Just support your farmer or grow it yourself, and that's the protocol. That now does that sound just too complicated? Um, it doesn't cost a lot of money either. It just takes a little bit of dedication. So, would you agree with that first that assessment as the first step that makes that needle move?
I think so, without a doubt. And honestly, with all the money I'm not spending on supplements, because of you, I because I live in the mountains, I know I want low de- deuterium depleted water as low as I can possibly get. So now the money I'm not spending on supplements and stuff like that, well, I got light water. I got a case of it down there. You showed me how to, how to cut it, I suppose. Sounds like we're drug dealers at this point when it comes to water. And of course, I got a bunch of glass bottles of that Icelandic. I drink about a gallon and a half of water a day, and of course, I supplement it also with the stuff that we have coming out of the ground here. But yeah, I mean, I would absolutely agree, man. That is probably the easiest way to get started. But honestly, you're undoing, I think, a lot of it with your light hygiene in the evening unwittingly.
Yeah.
A lot of us are so addicted, I think, to the way that we've done things our whole lives that we're gonna, oh shoot, man, I opened this fridge. Or and I didn't have my blue light blockers on. And like you said, it's still, your skin is still a receptor as well. That's why with the TV, instead of just wearing the blue light blockers, if you're going to watch it, I got the whole screen covered. There's no blue light coming off this thing at all. And it's simple things, but like I said, you don't win this war in miles, you win it in inches. I started with the light, got the water squared away. Every other hack that went along, I'm like, okay, let me get this down. Let me get this down. Okay, how much of my day can I spend barefoot? How much can I do outside? The cold weather, or the cold plunging, I did try that for a while. I didn't feel the needle move, and I'm guessing it might have something to do with the haplotype of my mom. I'll have to get with you privately about that, but I don't feel it. I don't get this euphoric feeling that everybody else does. But anyway, there's so many other things, so many more things I'm sure I could add to this, but man, I gotta
Y'all are
say,
doing it.
it's life changing.
Y'all are doing it. Y'all have done amazing. I greatly appreciate the talk. I just wanted your story out there. I just wanted your work and the story as a beacon of hope. It's not unattainable. We do not have to be sick. We do not have to be slaves to the system. We do not have to be cogs in the wheel. Right? We have so much power, and when we get together and actually implement these things and realize that we've been lied to about everything, it doesn't matter. It's been a lie, and there's just hope. There's hope, and people are doing it, and there's a network, a community that we can call, just continue coming together and strengthening. So I'm just excited. The podcast has been a blessing because I've got to meet people like you. It's been amazing. I don't know if there's probably not another podcast that's had Jack, Alexis, and Jim Garish and Gabe and Joel on, right? Like we cover a lot of different ground, but it's been an absolute blessing. And God's laws are God's laws, and when we break them, we're going to have consequences. So, Billy, thank you, my friend. Let's make sure that you give all your taglines, where everybody can find you and follow along with you, my friend.
Sure. On YouTube, it's Perma Pastures Farm. On X, unless you want to see some of the comedy or some of the political issues I have, you can check us out on X at Perma Pastures Farm. The podcast, which I had no idea was going to wind up being like the fastest growing farm podcast in the world. It's called the Permaculture PIMP cast, and PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. There's a reason I named it that. There's a motive for all that. But anyway, you can find us at all those places or even at our website, permapasturesfarm.com. And stay tuned because we're going to be before long promoting this event that we're going to have next year. Barbara O'Neill's going to be a headliner, but like I said, we're using her as bait for everybody to see Logan. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled, y'all.
Thanks, brother.